Good afternoon. This is Ari Brown. I work with Sigmanest. I'm the director of the Southern Territory here for Sigmanest. Appreciate everybody giving me some time today. I am monitoring the room right now, so I can see any questions that you all have. Anything that comes up or pops into your mind or whatever, just go ahead and ask the questions. Manish Patel out there, can you hear me okay? All right, once I hear back from Manish, we'll go ahead and start. And I think you can hear me. Okay, so again, my name is Ari. I've been with Sigmanest for over 22, actually, yeah, about 15 years actually. I actually started as a customer in the CNC router industry. I was working for a company in North Carolina that had plants all over the Southeast. Actually still a customer today, Industrial Timber. So if anybody's out there from Industrial Timber, appreciate you. The start you all gave me working with Sigmanest. And I have also been traveling quite extensively as a full-fledged employee of Sigmanest. And I got an opportunity this week to meet with some people in Texarkana, Texas. Ben Mayo and his team of furniture makers there. We got a picture of them up there, and Kirk, his director of operations, I believe. It was great to meet with those guys, good customers, longtime customers of ours. And you'll notice here on the screen here, we got a lot of different companies that use Sigmanest, different industries, including the boating and ship construction, aerospace. It's amazing how many companies out there need Sigmanest and use Sigmanest every day to support their CNC routers. Everything from plastics to steel, mild steel, aluminum, plywood, OSB, all kinds of materials are being used, are being cut with CNC routers today. A lot of great partners in those CNC router OEMs, everybody from AccuRouter. I'm actually calling you today or talking to you today from East Tennessee. The first company on the list here is AccuRouter. That's where I got my start. Brian Purnell and TR Herzog, those guys out there, I love those guys. Sierra Ontrude, the list goes on and on. Axes, Coma, Multicam. These are some of the routers that we come across at Sigmanest. We have a team of about 8 different post developers that are constantly working on these types of posts for this this type of cutting machine, among others. And they are making new ones and improving the ones that we currently have, adding new functionality, new tools as they come available with Sigmanest. All right, so what I wanted to do today to talk about the different tools that we have inside of Sigmanest that benefits the router community, I wanted to go through some real live scenarios. And this first scenario, way back to when I first got my start into the CNC router world, I worked for a company in Morristown, Tennessee named Burkline. And this is a typical frame that they have. And what you'll notice in here in this slide is a CAD drawing. It has some different text embedded in there that I put in AutoCAD that Sigmanest can actually pick up on by using a tool inside of Sigmanest called text strings. Okay, and we're going to go over that a little bit in some of these tools here. So let's go ahead and jump into the technical side, and I'll explain some of these tools as we're seeing them on the screen here. So first of all, we're bringing in a DXF. The DXF that we're bringing in is a multi-layered DXF that's got dimension layers and all kinds of different things on there. But we're turning those layers off here on our interactive mapping screen. I'm also zooming in there to show you that we have some parameters there that will automatically be populated inside of Sigmanest. So parameters like material, thickness, quantity, part name, all of that can be mapped over from your AutoCAD and brought straight into the Sigmanest. Also, we can put grain constraints on, you know, as this particular frame here that we're nesting is 3/4 plywood. Going over and building up our nest here, our task. We're going to get 7 units, complete units in here. I'm using the user 2 nesting algorithm here, and that tends to give me the better automatic result that I'm looking for. Also, we're using a tool called small part handling. So parts that fall under 8 square inches will get a bigger part-to-part spacing. And as you guys know, a lot of times when I'm done, I'll kind of hit the bump command and space out the smaller parts and take advantage of some of that extra material there, so I get a better quality cut. So I got on the fly. That is a unique, I think, tool of Sigmatek that I've always loved as a customer, is that I can interact with the nesting. Here's where the stability sequencing comes in, and we're going to show that and go over that here in just a second, what that means. And basically, what we're doing is we're moving the lead ends away from where we've previously cut. So here, we put the drills on there. That first process was the drilling, and now let me zoom in here and show you how I can. Sigmatek is moving the lead ends away from where we've cut. So that means that we're going to get a better quality cut, less router movement. This is a pretty amazing function here that's built into Sigmatek, and it's called stability sequencing. And you guys can check into that a little bit more later with our technical support team. We're going to go ahead and post this out here for our router, and then print out reports. And that's one of our technical slides there I wanted to show you. All right, so I want to go in a little bit more detail here, and I'm going to bring up something here. All right, so the other tool that I wanted to show you here that I think is pretty amazing is the ability for us to cut the small parts first. Okay, all right, so this is very common. If you can imagine, this is a 4x8 sheet of plywood here. This is going towards the upholstered furniture industry. I have a series of small parts here, so my nest is all set up perfectly, and I've got some extra spacing built in here for these smaller parts and all that, so I get a better quality. I have more part-to-part, more skeleton holding these parts in. But what I want to do is I want to cut these small parts here first before I cut anything else, because that's when I'm going to have the most hopefully vacuum hold down is what a lot of my the customers out there that work with Sigmatek, they'll have routers that have vacuum suction, and then so the way I do that is this: go over here into the auto NC, and right here there's a button called NC small parts first. You may have come across it before and kind of wondered what it does, but when you check that button there, it's actually going to get all the small parts first here, and we're going to show that here in the first slide, and then I'm going to show you one other thing that's kind of neat. So let's do a quick little show here to show how that's going. We're actually using the stability sequencing and the small part handling at the same time. So here we're cutting out the smaller parts first. This is a very common way of cutting with the CNC router. So we get rid of the small parts, we go ahead and cut them up. You could even tab them in. You can do the 3D tabbing. Another thing that I like to show when I'm out traveling, and I've seen this a lot, is there's a lot of changes that are made in the design, and some of those changes are kind of come in late, into the production. And what I'd like to simulate right now is a change in one of these parts here. They're going to actually get a depth pocket cut on this part here. So I can right click here and go into part mode, and I wanted to show y'all how we can change the depth of this here on the fly fairly easily by using the set depth command inside of Sigmatek. So that's located again in the part mode. So I just went into part mode here on this one, on this part here, and then I have under this tab, usually the quality tab is what's coming. So when you hit when you first go in there, when you go ahead and just hit the down arrow, hit the set depth, and then window around the area that you want to change the depth on, a little window here pops up here, and then you can go down here and maybe set a half depth. And then that's really cool because you can change it on the fly. We can go right back here to the nesting. We can see that change has been made on the fly here. So now when I go over here and hit auto nest, I don't mean to hit auto nest, let me cancel that. When I hit auto NC, I already have my pocketing picked out, so I'm going to show you where that's at. right over here under the router tab. This is something that's automatically checked. If there is some depth cutting, it'll automatically pick up on it, but I wanted to show you where it's at. So we have the auto destruct here turned on. Again, it's a default setting here on my computer. So here now the router will come in here and do this pocket here and go down at that certain depth that I've described. Let me get back here to our screen in a second. All right, so I wanted to show you those two things, okay? So now we'll go over here and continue. Okay, scroll down a little far there. All right, so we went over there, cut small parts first, 3D tabbing, small part handling, stability, sequencing, and more. So now let's go into, I wanted to also show a scenario here where we have SolidWorks integration. So I've designed inside of SolidWorks, and this would be same for the inventor community and all that. So, but I do have a little ottoman here that I've designed, and it's going to do some things here. So let's go ahead and show. Under the underside of this this ottoman here has some depths, all right, for the leg rails to go into. And what we'll be able to do inside of Sigmatek, we can go ahead and import that SolidWorks. Sigmatek is automatically looking for a SolidWorks assembly file or maybe even SolidWorks part files. This is the solid modeling interface there as we're pulling these parts in. What I like about the SolidWorks integration is we're able to count, Sigmatek is able to count the parts that have the same name here. So you can see that these three parts here, they're really, there's two per frame. So I got a side panel, leg rail, and then the end rail. And now when I set up my job, I can bring that in and put the amount that I want. Maybe I want to get 3 in a kit here. Again, that user 2 is the most popular one that I've seen most people using. That gives us, when we're cutting wood parts, it gives us the best yields. Okay, so this one here, as you can notice, just like we showed before, there is a depth cut in that leg rail. So we already got the router, everything set up here as a default. So it's looking for that sort of thing. Sigmatek is automatically. And any depths that might be out there. So here we go ahead and post it, and then it's ready to go out there to the machine. So a lot of our customers are getting into 3D modeling, you know, with SolidWorks, with Inventor. I see that a lot. I see a lot of Solid Edge out there. Sigmatek here is aligning itself with these CAD packages and allowing y'all to bring those parts in. Here in a little bit, I'm going to show you how we can strip out or maybe not include some of these parts on the migration process. All right, so this next one here, I wanted to show a little bit of a larger assembly. And this frame here does have this 4/4 lumber part here. And you'll have to forgive me, but this is my background is upholstered furniture. So, you know, all these tools here, the tools that we need to drive plastics cutting, metal cutting, you know, there are different tools that are unique for them. But this is kind of my focus to this is just really wood router cutting. All right, so we'll go ahead and do a quick little show here, a little technical. Let's fly out here and show this. Okay, so. All right, so as you can see, this frame is mortise and tenon together. We're going to go ahead and do that import again. Here's the layer mapping screen for the solid CAD, similar to our DXF mapping screen, except there's a little bit more functionality embedded into it. If you all are out there and you're using SolidWorks, or you have engineers that are using SolidWorks and you're wanting to align Sigmatek with them without having to go by DXFs, then definitely give us a call. We'd love to help you to bring those parts in. Automatically, we're able to see the thickness, the quantity, we're able to see the material settings and all of that. So here, let's go ahead and build up a quick nest here with this one, a new task. We'll grab our parts. Give it a kit there. We'll try to get 5 of them in a sheet here. We got 4x8 sheets, put 3 sheets down. User 2 is the nesting algorithm. Go ahead and get our nest down. Now, we do have a multi-pane window now where you can see all three layouts at the same time. You can even move parts around from layout to layout. I don't know if y'all are familiar with that, but that's something that you might want to check into. Another tool here, this tool was made for us probably in version 10 early. It's multi-pane. Go ahead and post that code out there, and that completes the process once we've had our reports. And then we'll just show a screenshot of our reports here. Do the layout detail and a part label, our most popular reports for our manufacturing community. Cycle times, yields, all of that information is displayed on your layout detail. I hear a lot from my customers out there wanting to configure the cycle times and for Sigmanest to give better, more accurate cycle times, and our people on the desk there on the technical support can help you and show you where that information is at and how you can put that information into Sigmanest to get more accurate cycle times. All right, so I wanted to show you here in SolidWorks. All right, so where do we put the keyword? This is SolidWorks, so you guys will have, the inventor people in the Solid Edge will have another way, but it'll be similar here. But all these parts here are parts that I want to go over, all the mortise and tenon and all this plywood stuff. This is stuff going over to the router, but this 4/4 lumber piece that's coming from the rough end or the lumber yard, that's not going into Sigmanest. So I can actually embed a keyword in there, and I'm doing that right now. I'm actually opening up that part file. And over here under, for those familiar with SolidWorks, under File, under Properties, we have a keyword here, and I can put anything here that I want. In this case here, I use the word perch. So then when I hit OK here, over inside of Sigmanest, and let me open up Sigmanest. When I import that SolidWorks file, and I pick this here and I hit import, how I align Sigmanest to SolidWorks on the Sigmanest side. The screen is coming up in just a second. Hold on one second. Yeah, let's go ahead and get rid of that other section of Sigmanest. There it is. All right, so where that is right here under the SolidWorks, or I'm sorry, under Advanced. What I can do is I can use the part filter here, and I can say exclude parts that have the keyword, and this is where I would put in perch. Okay. Once that's done, then it will exclude all these parts here from, so if you have nuts, bolts, T-nuts, whatever, they won't come over. Now, the other concept I wanted to share with you guys here, just as a little bonus here, because I do like talking about this sort of thing, is right here, this designed keyword design for manufacturing. Okay, so that's what I'm wanting to show you right now. All right, so when I designed this frame here, I actually made the leg rail here that is in that frame. This inside of this leg rail here where it goes in the frame, it's okay if I had a little bit of a cutout here, and I'm actually nesting a part inside that I actually need right inside that leg rail here. So I'm able to do that. And I don't know if you guys know how to do this here, but there's a way, if Sigmanest isn't picking up on that, you can actually make, what I've done down here is I'm going to delete that out now, but we have the ability to set this up the way that I want to. If I wanted to, I could delete out all of these here just for fun. And I could set up one the way I like it. I could float it in here and do that. And then what I do is hit the snap button and then highlight this here and then right click, and then I could say add as a pre-nest. And then when I auto nest this, it'll nest that way. So I don't know if you guys know about that, but that is a neat little function inside of Sigmanest that you might take advantage of. And that's called pre-nesting to maximize the yield. Okay. All right. So once you get Sigmanest, once Sigmanest is purchased at your facility, and I know a lot of my customers out there are in this meeting, but for those of you who are new to Sigmanest, we do have a focused engineering team that goes after the routers. It's a very unique cutting process, and so we have people that are trained in that sort of thing. So we're going to set up, if you're a brand new customer, we'll set up an on-site training for 4 days, and we'll teach you how to use all the tools. It is focused. We'll help you with the tooling setup, how to set up the different drills that you might have, the different shaping tools that you have and all that. So we'll help you with the tooling setup. We'll teach you how to do all that. Also look at some of your parts, your production parts, and do some production programming and send those out there to the machines and certify them. And then even a lot of times we'll kind of do a manufacturing process map, where we might get a blue board up there or a race board, dry erase board, and map out your current production and maybe some ideas of how you might benefit using Sigmanest, in the process. Maybe we'll cut out some steps. So that's always a neat little thing to do, maybe on the last day, or maybe even before our engineer project manager gets there. And then we can also talk about the CAD integration setup. In this meeting here today that we talked about DXF import, and how that you can set up text strings inside the parts. That's what I'm talking about here when we're looking at CAD integration setup for you. One thing that Sigmanest is always focused on is how do we make the software easier for our engineering community to use. And CAD integration is something that we focus on pretty heavy at Sigmanest. All right, so after the sale, support and tools, we do have 2 support centers in the U.S. at our corporate headquarters in Cincinnati, of course. That's where most of our engineers are located. Our operations team is currently led by Sean Burton, great guy, and his team of people. So they're there to answer your phone calls, and they start their day out at 8 o'clock in the morning there Eastern. So then we do have our office out there in Redmond, Washington, and we call it the Seattle office. There's several engineers over there too. So there's a good chance if you call in to tech support, you could be getting one of those good engineers. And also, we do have today we have over 250 engineers and just developers, programmers, and all of us have unique backgrounds. Some are routers, some are lasers, some are previous users of Sigmanest and working for the company now. And we do have senior CNC router engineers available for on-site consulting. One thing that I would recommend to a lot of our customers out there, if you're using an older version of Sigmanest, say you're on version 8 or 9 or whatever, 10, you might consider having an on-site. We do a 2-day on-site for routers. It's just a router focus, and it really is for our customers that currently have maybe one person there that has been through the training, or maybe you're just wanting to do an upgrade, from version 10 to our latest version 11 or X1. I would highly recommend a 2-day on-site, to make sure that everybody's taking advantage of all these different tools. Okay. All right. So having said all that, do I have any questions out there? Do y'all have any questions for me? And I'm looking now at my other monitors to see if there's any questions that are typed in. I'd love to hear from you. Let's see here. All right, I see a lot of cool people out there. We got over 25 people in the room right now. And if you guys have any questions, now would be a good time. Okay, so Benjamin, when you set up the present, does that stay in for future nest? So I think, Benjamin, what you're saying is yeah, there's a default setting. Oh, pre-nest. No, that pre-nest there would only lives right inside that task. So let's just kind of look at what he's saying. This is Benjamin. All right, so what he's saying is when if I were to need this again, or if I wanted to run this again, would this pre-nest here be available? And the answer, I believe, is no, because I've actually set up that pre-nest inside the task for this one here. So if I were to set up a new task and ask for these parts again, I wouldn't see those again arranged in that fashion. Okay, Chris Cole has some questions in a second here. So Nathan King, how do we organize an X1 installation on site? Can someone install it in our physical server? The answer, Nathan, is yes. We have a new service that we're doing for our customers. You can either have us do it remotely for you, Nathan, or we can come to your facility. It really depends. If we do it remotely, our engineer, our project manager will take over your desktop. He'll load the new version of Sigmatek, the latest version. He'll migrate the post processors, the SN database, all over to the new platform. He'll also, once he's done, he'll schedule a 4-hour web-based router focused training with you. So to go over the tools that are unique to you and that would be of particular interest to you, and that is customized. So that's a good question, Nathan. Okay, Chris, is there any way to apply multiple tool paths to the same geometry? Is roughing and yes, absolutely. A lot of our customers do that, and I'm going to refer that question, maybe for a follow-up. But absolutely, you can do that. You can add roughing passes. There's multiple passes, and we can add different tools. I have a customer over in the Carolinas that these little relief cuts here they make them as small as possible. So they use a bigger bit to come in here and kind of hog that out, and then they come back and they just barely kind of use the maybe an 1/8 inch drill bit or diameter bit to get kind of clean that area up there. Chuck Watson, we got a lot of parts that need fine tool cleanup. Okay. Multiple nests because they are different passes. I can set up speeds and plunge, but it's very difficult. What do you recommend? Okay, so Chuck, that is a good question. Has a similar question as what Chris had, where he's doing multiple. He's trying to clean up these areas here with other tools. There are particular people at Sigmatek that I would recommend you talk to when you call into tech support. One that comes to mind is Lloyd Lischentritt, and a lot of you might know about him. But he is particularly good with the routers. And also, if you do call in and you're having trouble, maybe you're talking to someone that has more of a laser background or whatever, please ask to speak with Sean Burton or the manager, or just someone that has a router background. They should be able to get you in touch with the right person. The other thing too is when you're calling in tech support, Benjamin, a lot of times that first person that answers, he's listening to what the issue is that you're having, and then he's going to route you to that right router person. Now, if we're not answering these questions in a timely fashion, please reach out to your local sales teams. They're your advocate. They can help maybe further get more help to you, quicker help. And I'm sure that they're going to want to hear about it, because it's kind of the old adage, if our customer's happy, everybody's happy, and that's truly how we feel. So please give our sales teams an opportunity. If you're having issues that they're maybe not getting solved quickly enough, let us know. Okay, so that's a good question, Chris. Why are the feeds and speed settings under the tool manager not used? Only the feeds and speeds in the tech tables are respected. Okay, that I'm going to answer that, Chris. Kind of a general answer, I guess. In the tech tables here, we do have each material can have up to 3 different feed rates, and that is we're really kind of basing that on the feature size of the what we're cutting. So if we're cutting let's just assume that we've got a 3/8 cutter bit and we're cutting we're cutting a 1-inch diameter hole. So we're going to interpolate. We might interpolate and cut that at a feed rate of 50 IPM because that's going to give us the best quality cut. We went at the larger feature size, and that might be an outside diameter or outside cut, that might be at 400 IPM. Okay, so if we apply the 400 IPM to that 1-inch diameter hole, we're going to get an egg kind of oval type shaped hole result, and then that's not what we're looking for. So we do give you the ability to slow down or have 3 different feed rates based on feature size that you're cutting. The feed rates that are located in the tool manager, I'm gonna have to get somebody from the tech support team to help us on that one. I'm not really familiar with the answer. I know where the tool manager, you go in the tool manager and you're looking at the milling tool. You have a milling tool here. Let's just open that up here. Okay, so they usually, I know there's a spindle speed here that's important, and mine, of course, it's kind of zeroed out here. I can't imagine that maybe in the milling side when we're cutting, this, it seems to me, I mean, my experience would tell me that the feed rate would be not coming from the tool manager, but it would be coming from the tech table, because we are looking really to align the tool with the material that we're cutting. If I were using this same tool here, this 1/2-inch mill tool for cutting through, say, a 1/2-inch mild steel, of course there would be a different feed rate for that. So I think that's why Sigmatek makes your feed rates come out of the material or out of the tech table. They're based on the material and not so much on the here in the tool manager. I'm looking here at some more questions here as I pause. Is there any way to do an isometric view to verify the depth of cuts and lead-ins? Chris, that is a great question. And the way I'll answer that is right now, in our Sigmatek package, we don't have an ISO view that does that, but I can tell you this. There's a team of engineers working out of the Seattle office, led by Paul Akita, who is making a product called SolidX, I think is what we're going to call it. And that will be used for routers and also beveling and different other machine processes that we're supporting that is 3-dimensional ISO views. So that is something coming, Chris, on the horizon. Okay, Juan Lopez says G-codes to download to, I'm thinking he's saying laser machine. I'm not really sure your point there, Juan. Yeah, when we produce our codes, we do output the G-code that would drive the different machines. Chuck Watson asks, who was the router tech you recommended? Oh, okay, so a good one is Lloyd Lischentrit, and he's really good. You can get his contact information from the tech support team. Chris Cole, why is the spindle on and off called flame? That's a great one, Chris. As I mentioned when I started here, I got 15 years experience. I never really noticed that as the customer, and what Chris just said is something I think is kind of an inside joke here with me. Right over here, when you're doing your nest and you go over here to parameters, Chris is asking the question here, why is it up here, say, number of torches? Really, for us in the router world, it's number of spindles. So for all those out there that have multiple spindles, some of the Shotos I've worked on, has up to 4 spindles. The Comos and the AccuRouters, they might have 2 spindles. But this word here, just disregard that. That's really going towards our 6 other types of machines that we drive, and they all cut with fire or water. But just please, that's the answer there. It's a schematic. Just I wish it would say spindles here, but then our laser people would wonder. Is there a lot of router, multi-pass, multi-tool upgrades coming in the future versions and news for a release date? Chuck Watson, that's a good question. So yes, just stay tuned for that. We are working on those new tools for multi-pass and multi-tools. And I think a lot of that's going to come out of the SolidWorks when that's available. And I'm not sure exactly when they're going to come out with that. I would imagine probably in the next year or so. But that's not to say that we're not going to add new tools to this version. We are still actively supporting, of course, our Sigmatek, the what you see on the screen here. Okay, Chris Cole asked, and this will be our last question, and then we'll wrap it up here. But Chris Cole asked, what is the proper place to manage material? The tech files or the sheet manager? Okay, so that's a good question. Okay, so the material information that is in the tech table, this is really for production, for machine speeds, feeds, and stuff like that, machine parameters here. So production is where that is. So if you go to the production machine parameters, and I were to go down here to the multi-cam router, you do have a material tables and all that. I think that's right around in here. So that's the material table. So really this right here in this area, Chris, this is driving feed rates, plunge times, spindle speeds and stuff like that, really machine information. The other location you mentioned here is under the sheet manager. That really is, they're aligned. When you grab a 3/4 inch piece of plywood out of the sheet manager, then that's going to enact or invoke all the settings that come from the tech table from that 3/4 inch plywood, feed rates, spindle speed, stuff like that. So really it's 2 separate functions, working together. Alrighty, so sales questions. If you do have any sales questions, here's the number that you can reach out to, the technical support team. That's their number there. This whole session here that we've been talking today is being recorded and will be emailed to each one of you a link where you can download that soon after we get done with this meeting. And also we will upload this to our tech table. I'm sorry, to our YouTube. So let's stay in touch. Definitely reach out to your salespeople, your local salespeople. If you have any questions, you have any needs, consulting, upgrades, all of that, we'd love to talk to you. We love hearing from our customers. And I appreciate your time on a Friday afternoon. Hope you all enjoy the weekend. Thank you again.